everyone. Um, we're going to chapter 2 of Dragon's Oath by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. Chapter 2, 1830, England. Father, you cannot disown me and banish me to the Americas. I'm your son, Brandon Langford, third son of the Earl of Langford, shook his head and stared disbelievingly at his father. You are my third son. Four sons, two older and two younger. I have four other sons, two older and two younger. None of them are as troublesome as you are. Their existence and your behavior make it quite simple for me to do this to you. Brian ignored the shock and panic his father's words, threatening to break loose within him. He forced himself to relax, to slouch nonchalantly against the wooden door to the stall closest to him as he beamed the Brian Langford smile at the Earl. That disarmingly handsome grin that women found irresistible and made them want to subdue him, and men found charming and made them want to be like him. The Earl's dark, unchanging expression said that he was well aware of the Brian Langford smile and utterly unaffected by it. My decision is final, boy. Do not disgrace yourself further by unsuitably begging. Begging, Brian felt familiar anger stir. Why must his father always belittle him? He never begged for anything in his life. He certainly was not going to start now, no matter the consequences. I do not beg you, father. I simply am trying to reason with you. Reason again, you cause an embarrassment for me because of your temper and your sword, and you ask me for reason with you, father. It was only a small altercation with a Scotsman. I did not even kill him. In actuality, I wounded his vanity more than his body. Brandon attempted a chuckle, but the sound was cut off by the return of the cough that had been plaguing him all that day. Only this time it was followed by a wave of weakness. He was so distracted by the betrayal of his body that he put up no resistance at all when his father suddenly closed the distance between them and with one hand fisted the quiver at Brian's throat, rammed him against the wall of the stable with such force that the little breath left in his whole body swooshed from him. With his other hand, the Earl knocked the still bloody sword from Brian's failing grip. You blustering little dragon! The Scotsman is a borderer. His lands adjoin mine, which you know, as you are aware that his daughter and her bed are within a short day's ride of our estate. The Earl's face, flushed with anger, was so close to his son that his belittle, reigned over Brian. And now your impetuous actions have gained this large all the proof he needs to go out of our pattern full of a new consequence is that you were the between me and now that weak has all the excuse he needs to look the other way when thriving clansmen from north sweep south looking for fat cattle to steal. Whose cattle do you think they will be after soon? Be after, son of mine? Brian could only gasp for breath and shake his head. With a look of utter contempt, the Earl of Langford let loose his son, allowing him to fall. Call him
Oh, I'm sorry.
vaguely
Is the weather radio disturbing you?
to the dirt floor of the stable.
Hi, everybody.
Then the nobleman mentioned to the red coat members of his personal guard who had been vainly watching his son's disgrace, singling out the pock-marked senior member of the squad. Jeremy, as I already ordered, bind him like the miscreant he is. Choose two other men to accompany me. You take him to the port, put him on the next ship to the Americas. I want never to see him again. He is no longer my son. Then he motioned at the stableman. Bring my horse. I have wasted enough of my precious time on this foolishness. Father, wait, Brian began, but another coughing fit cut off his words. The Earl paused long enough to look down at his long nose at his son. As I already explained, you are expandable, and now you are no longer my concern. Take him away. You cannot send me away like his. He cried, how will I live? His father jerked his chin at Brian's sword, which lay in the dirt not far from him. It had been a gift from the Earl, which his precious son had turned 13, and even in the dim, dusty light of the stable, the jewel of this encrusted the held glisten. Perhaps that will be of more use to you in your new life than it was to me in your old one. Allow him to take the sword, he addressed the guards, and nothing else with him. Bring me back the ship's name and its captain, marked as proof as that he has left England, and have him be gone before sunrise tomorrow, and there will be a purse of silver waiting to split between you, the older man said, and then strode to his waiting horse. Brian Langford tried to shout at his father to tell him how sorry he would be later. When he remembered that though his third son was indeed his most troublesome, he was also his most talented, intelligent, and interesting. But another coffin fit grasped the 17-year-old so thoroughly that he could only grasp helplessly and watch his father's horse gallop away off. He couldn't even fight as he wished he could when the Earl's guard bound him, then dragged him through the dirt of the old stable. It was about time a little crowning cook like you was brought low. Let's see how you like being common.
Oh, I thought someone was knocking.
Laughing sarcastically, Jeremy, the oldest and most pompous of Brian's father's guards, tossed him into the back of a poultry cart before bending to pick up Brian's sword and, with a calculating look at its glittering hilt, shoved it through his own wish clothes. By the time Brian reached the port, it was dark, both in the world around him and within his heart. Not only had his father disowned him and cast him from his family and out of England, but it was becoming more and more clear that he was in the grip of some horrible plague. How soon would it kill him? Before he was free of the stinking dock, or would he die before being dragged onto one of the merchant ships that bobbled in the black water of the bay? I'll be taking a coughing chick like this aboard the ship's captain held his torch higher, examining the bound and bar. It will be crossing our way. This is the Earl of Langford's son. You'll take him or answer to his ship about my night. Growled the senior guard. I see you are here. See a scattered boys got ours and in the same. And I won't be even to anyone, especially no existent Earl. if I be dead from this brat's sickness. Brian tried to stifle his coughing, not to reassure the captain, but to the rest the burning within his chest. He was holding his breath when the man stepped from the shadow. Tall, lean, and dressed all in black, his pale skin in stark contrast to the darkness that seemed to surround him. Brian blinked. His feverish gaze was deceiving him. Was that truly a crescent moon tattooed in the middle of his forehead, surrounded by more tattooing? His vision was blurred, but Brian was almost certain that the tattoos looked like crescent wafers. Then, then reason the vision, caught up with vision, and Brian felt a jolt of recognition. A crescent moon and the surrounding tattoo could mean only one thing. The man was no man at all. He was a vampire. It was then that the creature lifted his hand, palm facing outward directly at Brian. The boy stared in wonder at the spiral that decorated the palm, and the vampire spoke words that would forever alter his life. Brian Langford, night has chosen thee. Thy death will be thy birth. Night has calls to thee. Hearken to her sweet voice. Your destiny awaits you at the house of night. The creature's long finger pointing at Brian and his forehead exploded in pain as he felt the tattoo outline of a crescent moon blaze brand like into his skin. His father's men reacted instantly. They dropped Brian, moved away from him, staring in open horror back and forth between the boy and the vampire. He noticed the ship's captain had left his torch to spatter in the sand and disappeared into the darkness of the pier. Brian didn't see or hear the vampire approach. He only saw the guards moving nervously, grouping behind Jeremy, swords half drawn, indecision clear on their faces and in their actions. Vampire warriors had awe-inspiring reputations. The mercenary service were much sought after, but except for the beauty and strength of their women and the fact that they worship a dark goddess. Little was known by most humans of the society and inner workings. Brian watched Jeremy try to decide whether this creature was obviously what they call a tracker, who was also a dangerous vampire warrior. Then he felt an impossible strong grip on his arm, and Brian was lifted to his feet to stare up at the creature. Return to whence you came. This boy is now a marked Fleetling, and as such is no longer your responsibility. The vampire spoke with a strange accent, drawing out his words almost laughingly, which only added to the mysterious sense of danger he exuded. The men hesitated, all looking to the senior guard, who spoke quickly, managing to sound arrogant and be runner at the same. We need proof for his father that he has left England. Your needs do not interest me, the vampire said solemnly. Tell the boy's father that he boarded a ship tonight, though a much darker one than you humans planned. I have neither the time nor the patience to give you proof other than my word. Then he looked at Brian. Come with me, your future awaits. With a swirl of his black cloak, the vampire turning began straying away down the dock. Jeremy waited until the creature had been swollen by the darkness. Then he shrugged one shoulder and looked at Brian with disgust before saying, "Our mission is fulfilled. His lordship said to put his brat of son on a ship, and that is where he is going. Let us leave this fish-stinking place and return to our warm beds at Langford Manor." The men were turning away from Brian when Brian drew himself up straight. He just took his in a voice that was strong that he must from where he had shot. Brian instantly studied the precious stone encrusted. His smile was sparkling and his eyes were cold when he finally turned to Brian. Do you have any idea how many times your father called me from my warm bed to collect you from some brawl you've gotten yourself into? No, I do not, Brian said flatly. Of course you do not. All you nobles care about is your own pleasures. So now that you've been disowned and you're not nobility any longer, I'll be keeping the sword and the money selling it will gain me. Think of it as payment for what a pain in my ass you have been these past many years. Brian felt a rush of anger, and with it came a surge of heat throughout his body. Acting on instinct, the boy closed the distance between himself and the arrogant guard. In some part of his brain, Brian knew his movements were potentially naturally swift, but he remained focused on one thought that was a driving force within him. The sword is mine. He has no right to it. With the motion that blurred, Brian knocked the sword from Jeremy's hand and in the same movement caught it. As the other two guards moved forward, Brian lunged low and struck the point of the sword through the bones of the closing man's foot, causing the guard to double up and fall on the floor in agony. Brian automatically rebounded and changing direction. Flat blade, the second guard crossed the side of his head, stunning him. Moving with a deadly grace, Brian followed the motion of his sword, whirling around and ending with the sharpening edge of the blade pressed firmly enough against Jeremy's neck that his skin beaded with drops of blood. The sword is mine. You have no right to it. Brian heard his voice speaking his thoughts aloud and was surprised by how normal he sounded. He wasn't even breathing hard. There was no way Jeremy or either one of the other two fallen gods could have known that everything inside him was burning with anger, outrage, and the need for revenge. Now tell me why I should not slit your throat. Go ahead, strike me. Your father is a viper, and even disown you. You are a serpent of a son. Brian was going to kill him. He wanted to. His anger and his pride demanded it. And why shouldn't he kill him? The guard was only a peasant, one who had insulted him, the son of an earl. But before Brian could slice through the guard's neck, the vampire's words sliced the air between them. I have no desire to be persecuted and perhaps questioned by the British Navy. Let him live. His fate to return to serving those he despised is far greater punishment than a quick death. Still holding the point to the guard's neck, Brian glanced behind him at the vampire. The creature had spoken with a voice so calm it sounded almost bored. But his entire focus was on the guard's throat, and the small drops of scarlet, that Brian's blood had freed. The vampire obviously desired to, as well as horrified the boy. Is that what I'm meant to become? Brian shoved the garden away from him. He's right. Your life is better punishment than my blade. Go back to it and the bitterness with which you live. Without another look at the man, Brian turned his back to him and walked to the vampire's side. The vampire inclined his head in a small nod of acknowledgement. You made the right choice. He insulted me. I should have killed him. The vampire cocked his head to the side as if weighing the situation of a problem. Did his calling you a snake insult you? Well, yes. Calling me spoiled and trying to steal what is mine was also an insult. The vampire laughed softly. It is no insult to be called a snake. They are creatures allied with our goddess. Though I do not believe he was just in naming you such. I watched as you bested those three men. You strike more like a dragon than a snake. While Brian blinked in surprise, he continued, and dragons are above such petty insults. They're moral. Dragon America. And first of the jumbled thoughts that filled his mind. The vampire to give you United America was leader. And he made his motion with his hand just like that appeared. Let go so that
David, you want to shut it off? Is it disturbing you?
no, you can keep it on.
All right.
So you may discover them. I have spent enough time on this energy chores. My memories of England were not good, and I have encountered during my wait for you has done nothing anything better than to better them. The vampire dropped down off the dock with Brian almost jogging to keep up with his own stride. Did you say you have he had Brian you drive the first lane of a mark and prosper. Your last freaking what's happening to you? He tried at the summer. After all, he barely knew this vampire. And, and the creature was a vampire, mysterious, dangerous, and strangely compelling. The vampire's lightning smile widened. I finished my service as one of Nick's trackers, and am now able to return to my position as a son of Erebus warrior in the service of the Tower Grove House of Night. Tower Grove, that's in America. Brian's stomach tightened. He almost forgot that his world had turned upside down in less than the space of one day. It is indeed in America. In America, St. Louis, Missouri, to be exact. The vampire had come to the end of the long pier. The darkness, and Brian noted that he couldn't hear the creaking of a great ship and the lapping of water around it. But try as he might, he couldn't see more than a hulking shadow bobbing on the water. He noticed the vampire had stopped beside him and studying him carefully. Brian set his gaze squarely through his body like a tightly coiled spring ready to come loosely at any moment. I am called Shaw, the vampire finally said and held out his hand to Brian. I am Brian Langford. Brian paused and then managed a smile that was semi-sarcastic. I'm the former son of the Earl of Langford, but you already knew that. When Shaw took Brian's offered hand, he did so in the tradition of vampire greetings, grasping his form and not just his hand. Brian mimicked his actions. Marry me, Brian Langford, Shaw said, and he let loose the boy's arm and made a gesture at the darkness in the ship that lay hidden within it. This is the ship of night, which will bear me and perhaps you as well to America and my beloved Tower Grove House of Night. Perhaps me as well, but I thought Charles held up a hand, silent to Brian. You must indeed own a house of night and quickly. That mark, Charles pointed at the outline of the sapphire crescent moon that still ached in the center of Brian's farm, means you must be in the company of adult vampires until you either make the change completely to a vampire or I die. Brian said into the silence. Shaw nodded solemnly. Then do you know something of the world you're about to enter? Yes, young dragon. You will either complete the change sometime during the next 4 years or you will die. This night you have been gaining a life path from which there is no turning back. Now I told your father's guards that you will be joining me as I make the crossing to the new world. As I saw that they were sent on your departure from England. But the truth is more than your fate changed when you were marked. For the For the better or for the worse? Brian asked. For exactly what you make of it yourself. Next, be willing, he said quickly, and then he continued. You cannot control whether you will successfully complete the change, but you can control where you will spend the next several years. Should you wish to remain in England, I can arrange for you to be taken to the London House of Night. The tracker rested his hand briefly on Brian's shoulder. You no longer require your family's permission to pursue the future you most desire, or I may choose to come with you, Brian asked. Yes, but before you make your choice, I believe there is something you should see. Shaw turned to face the ship, which was visible to Brian only as a huge dark shadow resting anonymously on the water, tottering by impossible thick ropes, as if he had no trouble seeing through the thick blanket at night. Shaw took 2 steps closer to the edge of the pier, and then he did something that utterly mortified Brian. He turned so that he was facing south, raised his hand, and spoke 4 words softly. Come to me, fire. Instantly, Brian heard a crackling sound, felt a surge of warmth in the air around him. Then he grasped as a ball of fire between his stretched arms. The fire of tossing about Brian could see a large stand torch, the whole top of it instantly flame. Bloody Brian turning train, cleaning his mouth. How did you do that? Shaw smiled. Our guys have gifted with more than just the abilities of a warrior. But that is not what I wanted you to see. Shaw lifted the torch and held it before them to show that the proud prow of the huge ship made of wood, so Dark Brian thought it would look like it has been fashioned from night itself, was only made visible, and the boy blinked in surprise as he realized exactly what he was seeing. It is a dragon, he said, staring at the carving of the masthead. It was truly spectacular, a black dragon, claws outstretched, teeth bared, fiercely ready to take on the world. It seems to me, after the event of the night, to be a good omen, Shaw said. Brian stared at the dragon and was filled with the utmost intense flood of feelings he had ever experienced. It took him a moment to realize that what they were and what he knew. Excitement and expectation, longing, all joined him with all within him to create a single sense of purpose. He met the vampire's gaze. I choose to enter the dragon. Well, that is end of chapter 2. We'll be doing chapter 3 tomorrow, which will be Tower Grove House of Night, St. Louis in 1833 tomorrow. And I hope y'all will be able to join me. It had snowed today. I went out, had fun.
It rarely snows. It snows once every couple of years in Louisiana. If I can clarify. It snows like once every couple of years in Louisiana. And it was calf deep in some places. It was even all close to knee deep in other places. And that's a once in a lifetime thing for Louisiana. I'm 38 years old. I've seen snow a handful of times, but it's never been this bad. But it's an experience. So we never lost power. Praise the Lord in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
And I think the pork chops are cool now, baby.
Yeah.
I cooked some green beans from scratch, some pork chops, I baked them, and some rice, and we're fixing to eat dinner. And
Bye. See y'all.
Yeah.
We love you.
love y'all.